Be sure to check out my Patreon for weekly exclusive interviews, extra content on Veve and Ecomi, and building generational wealth, as well as money management tips from experienced whales. Yo, what is going on, y'all? I'm Cavell Anderson, and we're back with another Veve and Ecomi video. And this one, we're gonna have a huge video here from the homie K. So he's getting back into the algorithm. I wanted to do this video to kind of help him get a little bit of a push. So be sure to go subscribe to his channel, check out his channel if you have not already, man. He's going to be going over a lot of numbers in this one, and this is going to basically explain the sentiment around the market and what's actually going on Veve right now. And he's going to break down if Veve is actually dying, and just a lot of other debunking things and stuff that's happening right now. All the huge topics going on in the community. So yeah, this is going to be a good one. Let's see what's going on. Y'all know I don't sit down and break out numbers like this and stuff like that often. So yeah, we finna see what's going on. Yeah, be sure to drop that thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and let's jump right into it, y'all.
So what I'm going to be sharing is the Ecomi burn sheet created by Pudding Cheeks on Twitter. So Pudding Cheeks is a super OG guy, like really nice guy. Definitely do have a chat with him. But what's really cool is we have different columns showing the Ecomi being burned, gem purchases, and how much gems are free floating within the app. So this is really important because it shares with us some very important insight to why certain things exploded early on, why certain collectibles with high edition size did really well, and why a lot of people might be wrong with what's going to be happening in the short to mid-term on Veve. So as we can see, one key point is the number of free floating gems on the app. So I'm going to be touching on that first, right? So if we have a look here, we've got total purchases and fees, and we can see that this is the number of gems in the app. So this is a cumulative number. So to date, we've had $221 million spent on the Veve app, which is quite.
I just want to point out, if you watch the channel frequently, listen, you know your boy got to point out when I'm always right. And I don't even dig into numbers and stuff like this. I really do common sense investing. That is what I do. And it's really effective, clearly. Because, like, even when it came down to valuing, like, Electra and stuff like that, I've said, and that's been the topic for the last couple of days that we've been covering. When you think of things like, oh, this is going to pump next time the bull market comes, that's going to pump. Like, I was even arguing with people on Twitter about all the Mickey Mouses, like all these other Mickey Mouses with all these different editions and things like that. I pointed out that a lot of this stuff pumped during a time where there was very little to buy on Veve, and there was a lot of gems. You know, there was a lot of extra gems to go around. Now there's so much content, it's going to be more dispersed. Like, people are not going to have as many gems to buy Batman number 30 and Mickey number 3, 4, and 5. Like, it's like people are going to start prioritizing what they want. Like, people are going to start prioritizing what mostly fits into their strategy. We're going to start to see Veve get used the way it was intended to be, as opposed to every single person going for every single thing. It's just going to be way too much. And we're going to start seeing people going for the actual things that fit within their strategy. But in order to go for things that fits within your strategy, you have to have a strategy. Like, I know so many different people, and it's all different types of people in my private group, right? You have people going for metaverse plays. So you have people literally stacking certain collectibles that they believe is going to be in a metaverse game. They're gonna have utility in the metaverse game. You have these people ready to actually, you know, get renting going and stuff like that. Like, people preparing for that. You have people buying sets to prepare for Magic Collector. Then you have people like me just going for profit, collecting straight high probability profit pieces. So strategy is very important. Like, it's super important. So yeah, this is just to point out the numbers literally support an argument that I've been making over the last week or so. So just saying.
Quite a lot of money. And of that, 124 million gems are currently in the app. Now, if we go back, right, let's just go back in time just so you guys can see kind of, you know, how representative this data is. So I believe the Spider-Man drop, that came around about July. I might be wrong, but let's just go with July, right? So around about kind of mid to end of July, right, we had around about 3 to 4 million gems in the app, which is actually not a lot. 3 to 4 million gems in the app. And that's around the time when the Spider-Man dropped. we were, complaining, well, not we, but a lot of people were complaining that the edition size of Spider-Man was way too high. And if you had counted the total amount of gems needed to sell out the Spider-Man from the store completely, that figure was very, very high. It was in the millions. And obviously, the amount of gems in the app was not enough to buy out all the Spider-Man collectibles, and that's why it sat in the store for quite a while. Now, this was in July, okay? So if we scroll up a bit, let's go to September, right? So September, we've had consistent gem growth, and we're around about 6 million and 7 million, and then 10 million, and then end of September, 15 million. So between July and September, the number of gems in the app went 3x. And this was around the time when the Spider-Man collectible really started popping off. So obviously, if you have 3 times as many gems in the app than in the Spider-Man drop, you can expect probably a 3 times increase in the price, if not more, because people started to see the significance of it. Now, 50 million gems in the app in September. Let's go towards the end of the year, straight down to December, right? So December, end of December, we jumped from 15 million to 74 million gems in the app, free floating. So that is a 5x. So obviously, the Spider-Man went from 30 gems to 100 gems and then 500 gems, but it doesn't end there. No. January, we saw a much bigger pump, okay? December was just the start of it. So from around about 70, 75 million gems, if we go to the end of January, we went to over 100 million gems in the app. And this continued all throughout February as well. So this is extremely important because the number of gems was matching the amount of gems required to purchase the new collectibles, and at some points was even in excess. So we could see consistent growth in the collectibles, especially the older collectibles. We saw a consistent rise. The golden moments just went through the roof. Now we go to February, we're still seeing consistent growth. However, we are starting to see some days where it's red, nothing too crazy, obviously we just can't go up, up, up forever, right? Now, here we started to see some irregular growth, right? This is the point where the people who are money laundering gems, they were starting to get a bit greedy. We started to see days where we weren't just going up in gems 1 million at a time. Here we went from 124 million straight to 132 million. That was the day, I believe, that must have been a day when we had $8 million worth in gems put into the app, and I think there was nothing special. It was like a random comic. And that kind of, really was a red flag for the Veve team, and they kind of cracked down and restricted accounts and whatnot. So yeah, if we just continue now, April, that is when the market really started to have a downturn. And this, back in the start of April, we started to see the number of gems from 132 million start to drop. So the number of free floating gems in the app is going down. Now, obviously, to match the number of gems required for the collectibles, you at least need the number of gems in the app to increase by that much, if you don't want too much liquidation of existing collectibles. Now, that's fine. We do have a lot of gems held by people. Maybe they will use those gems. That's what we've been seeing. So for all the drops from 1st of April, people were mostly using gems that they already had in the app, their existing liquidity. So 132 million. And then, a few months in, we're down to 127 million. So we used about, 5 million gems worth. And then 126, 127, we're hovering around there, 124. Now, if we go down to June, we are down to around about 124 million gems. So even though people are adding gems in the app every day, we're spending more gems than what we're adding. So the amount of gems in the app is shrinking, which means the amount of free floating liquidity is going to shrink. Your collectibles are probably not going to be selling for the same prices that they were a few months ago. And judging by the looks of this, as Veve drops more and more NFTs, if there aren't more gems going into the app, net wise, we're not going to see things selling out like we used to.
And also, I just want to add that this is also a marketing problem. And it's not really a problem. It's just this is not the time to market. This will be a terrible time for the team to start marketing or to be marketing more and things like that, because people will come in, go through the cycle, get all pumped, get all excited, then they'll end up a few months down the line being more people pissed that there's nothing to do on Veve. The experience is not where it needs to be. Like, you have to look at this investment like we're early investors. We're the testers of this. They're testing the concept out on us. Like that's how you should feel coming into this project, not like you're coming into some completed, ready to go, fully furnished, project. Like, no, that's not what Veve is. Veve is still trying to get it right with a small user base. And they grew so fast that we are small to them. We're that small user base, like all of us. So yeah, that being said, you got to take that into consideration too. Yeah, no, just something to think on.
We're going to see a lot of things, selling at, huge discounts. And that's just how the app's going to progress for now. That's perfectly fine. That's normal market movement. Nothing crazy to be worried about, to be honest. The fact that Veve from like a year ago, we went from a couple million.
And just imagine what happens once they start promoting again, though. Once we're in a place where it's time to promote, imagine what happens again. Because we don't have new people putting gems into the app, and I think that's clearly the problem. We don't have new people putting gems into the app. The old people, the sentiment is gone. They can't get their money out. A lot of the whales that I know are no longer putting money into the app or doing their business on the app because they can't get money out. I literally know whales who were literally doing some of the most business on Veve that don't do it anymore because they can't. Like, Vive's restricted them, so they decided to leave and go pursue other opportunities. I literally know whales who are like that. So yeah, that's just what's happening. The sentiment is not good right now. It's not good at all.
Gems in the app, all the way to 124 million gems in the app. That is crazy. That's a 70x in terms of the free flowing liquidity in the app. Now, obviously, we have a lot more collectibles in the app than we did a year ago. Understandable, but we do have a fair amount of liquidity still sitting in the app. When MTL comes out, some of this liquidity is obviously going to get pulled out. So it'll be interesting to see what the true liquidity in Veve is. Now, obviously, the amount of money being spent in the app, for Omi burn, it's been great. Omi is down, in the past few weeks. We've gone from less than 50 billion Omi to nearly 57 billion burned. Like, that is crazy. 7 billion burned in a couple of weeks. I believe end of this month, or at least this month, we're going to smash that 60 billion Omi burn mark. Again, this is non-circulating supply, but I believe the team does have a lot of I believe they've got things in the works to help burn the circulating supply of Omi. Now, this is where the maths starts to come in, right? Like, this is why collectibles are not going to be selling out in the app unless they're extremely key pieces. And if those are extremely key pieces, then expect a sustained market dip. Not one of those market dips that, your collectibles instantly bounce back, but when they dip, they're going to be sat, they're going to dip there for quite a while, unless they get their key pieces. Because I did see the golden moments, like the Donald Ducks, the Pooh Bears, all of those stuff in the last Vader dip, they did bounce back. But a lot of the artist pieces, they dropped and they dipped and they have not recovered. And if we get more significant pieces, I believe those artist pieces, many of them are going to dip again, just because they don't have the amount of demand that a lot of these top brand IP collectibles have, like the golden moments, for example. So let's just take the more recent drop, right? So June.
Yeah, it was like super speculative. So there wasn't much, like the last decon and stuff like that. People are not collectors; they're gambling, and they knew that anything that they grabbed would do well. Now people are starting to realize that anything you grab is not going to do well anymore. So people are going to become more strategic. People are coming up with strategies. Like, you even have a guy going around collecting Electra. But I mean, if that's your strategy, man, yeah, you got to have conviction towards your strategy. Absolutely terrifying if I saw myself waking up with that collection. But I mean, that's a different story. But yeah, it's like people are establishing strategy now. Like, and that's what needs to be done. That's what it should have always been. I feel like those who started catching on a while ago, we're in a good position right now. Because I was doing the same thing. I was caught up in a pattern. Then I started learning. And yeah, like, this is something that I started preaching a while ago. I started preaching, learn the marketplace, blah, blah, blah. I was preaching that all last year. Like, don't go for drops. Like, all that. I've really been giving game the whole time, low key, and now people are gonna have to catch up. If you ain't been listening, you're gonna have to catch up.
The 5th, we had the Harlequin drop. Now, I'm gonna take the figures from the day before. So $383,000 of gems is what we had added into the app. $333,000. Now, if we go to the Harlequin article, so We had 7.5k collectibles at 40 gems, 5.5k at 50 gems, 70 gems worth at 3.25, and 90 at 1750. So I'm gonna try and remember that. So seven. Well, I'm including the amount that the team keeps behind, so this figure is going to be a bit lower. But we need, let's see, $960,000 worth into the app, so nearly $1 million, right? Let's just round this down to $900,000. Now, that's how much gems we need to be purchased to not cause a dip on the existing collectibles, assuming this sells out. So, what did we have instead? The day before, we saw $333,000 worth of gems, and even if we include the gems on the day of the drop, 331, we're still actually less than the total amount of that drop. Now, that's barely 700,000. Typically, we would want this this combined figure to be way above the amount of gems required for the drop if we want it to sell out, and if we don't want too much of a market dip. But again, the Harlequin didn't sell out, so I believe with the amount of dollars going into the app, we're not going to be seeing too many sellouts, like I said, unless they're key pieces, or unless they're like relatively cheap pieces like comics, the blind box stuff, because of the gambling factor and because of how inexpensive it is. We only need about 210,000.
I just want to point out, look at how much money is moving through Veve, y'all. Look at how much money is moving through Veve, and that's with no utility, token not linked, no mini games, no metaverse, no nothing. This is purely just Veve. This is purely just Veve. Imagine all the other stuff that gets added. Look at the damage just Veve is doing to the Omi token burns. Even though there's no clarity around how the circulating supply is going to get hit, look at the damage that's being done to that supply, the reserve. Look at that. And people have been speculating, oh, it's going to take 20 years, 20 this, like just a bunch of stuff that people had no idea what they was talking about. And when I was calling it out at the time, nobody wanted to listen. Now it's become painfully obvious they didn't know what they were talking about. And it's just like, I want Omi to stay down here for a while. I'm gonna just say that. Like, I want Omi to stay down here for a while and keep doing this thing. I don't think Veve is at, but when Veve is at the level where they are marketing, advertising, and then there's something to do on the app, it's gonna be crazy. Because if the app blows up while we're still at these price levels, like, you realize, like, this is gonna be ridiculous. Like, the burns were gonna be crazy.
$1,000 on the day, I believe. For that, at least we will sell out. We will continue to sell out for a while. I haven't seen a comic yet that has not sold out, so it'll be interesting to see when we see our first comic that doesn't sell out for the day. But bear that in mind. So what is going to happen next? Now, I believe that once we do have Omi 2 NFT, that's going to bring in a lot more liquidity. We're not just going to have dollar amounts going to the app. We're going to have dollar amounts in Omi going to the app very freely. That's what's going to really, really add a lot of liquidity, and I think that's going to be the biggest catalyst we'll ever see on Veve, as far as I'm aware. Now, when that happens, I believe we'll see exponential growth like we saw, from when we were only getting a couple of million gems into the app to 124 million. It is very, very difficult to get money into the app, so once we get Omi to NFT, we should be all good. Up until then, I believe we're going to start to see a much more realistic Veve, things not selling out.
That's still the same argument. Like, the argument we was making back then, it's like no one makes the argument no more because they taking so long to do stuff. But it's like, whales cannot even get big money into the app. Like, you want to put $1 million into the app right now, how do you do that? Like, you wonder why nothing is selling, nothing has ever sold on Veve, like you're seeing some of these Bored Apes and stuff like that. No, none of these people with that type of money can actually get that type of money into the app. Like, it's almost impossible to do that. Like, because think about it, like, if you got like what you can get $600 at a time on Apple, and then there's a ton of fees. By the time you get even $10,000, how many fees is that? Like, that's thousands of dollars of fees already. Like, imagine that, and then trying to get to even 100,000, and then 500. Like, nobody can just put in $1 million. But when you are allowed to use the OMI token, people can easily put in whatever crazy amounts that they want to like impulse buy, and then like whatever they're willing to gamble and lose. Like people, you got people who will run out with 50K and go and gamble that away just for fun. Like you think people won't just drop something like that in Veve, and that's enough to move some floors, like for sure. So people can't, that's not even an option on Veve right now. So that's when it is an option, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
As intended, we're going to see, things that don't just go 100x straight after the drop as intended. David and Dan never intended for things to be flipped, 5x literally straight after the drop, or, things to be selling out constantly every single drop. They intended for this to be a collector's app, and that's kind of what it's starting to transition into. So, yep. This goes to the point of, don't buy everything expecting.
I've been pointing out that as well. I've been pointing out the fact that it is starting to move more so like how it was intended to move, as opposed to how it was. So, like, this is stuff that you should have been preparing for this. Like, this is something that I've been preparing for personally for a while now. I mean, this was something that we all should have saw coming. But it's so much opportunity too. This comes with a lot of opportunity. Speaking of opportunity, there's a crazy play going on right now. Listen, you wanna know what I'm talking about? Check out the Discord, man. You know, I gotta do the promotion. But yeah, like it's a crazy investment right now. That's really good. Like that's really, really good. But yeah, anyway, we don't talk about that.
To go, in profit, or don't buy things solely for the purpose of making profit. Buy things that you're happy to hold. I'm happy to hold the current sets that I have been skipping certain drops. I skipped the Harley Quinn drop last because I'm not really that interested in Harley Quinn, and I suspected it wasn't going to sell out as intended, as expected, and it did. It didn't sell out, and the Ultra actually went below retail as I anticipated. So that's a fair point. So this is really, really important. Just bear that in mind. Right, we're going to start to see a much more realistic Veve, but assuming deliverables for this quarter are met, assuming we get OMI to NFT, MCP, all of the good stuff that actually makes collecting, valuable and rewarded again, then yeah, we will start to see that next phase of transition into the Veve app, where we start to see exponential growth once again. And at that point, people who accumulated at these bottom prices, they're the ones who are going to be, in that next wave, the ones who are going to be, turning out that 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, whatever it is on your Veve portfolio.
And this is for everybody saying that Veve is dying. Look at them numbers. I'm assuming them $1 million days, or they almost $2 million days. Those was probably like the Vader drops and stuff, like the lightsabers and then the Vader drop. Like for an app that's dying, when something important comes out, you sure as hell get that same level of money in here. It's not that the app is dying. It's just that people are uninterested in what's going on. It's highly speculative. Everybody knows most things are dropping below retail. So it's just not exciting right now. As soon as that vibe comes back, nobody really believes in much else as much as people believe in Veve. People are just frustrated, tired of being stressed. Like it's tiring. It's just exhausting. So I get it. I definitely get it. Especially if you're on this emotional roller coaster. Like, it's not easy to manage all the excitement and then back to the depression and then like just back and forth. It's not easy, but the market is still just as solid as always. I feel like the app is still just as solid as always. It's just going to take Veve actually starting to deliver. That's the big thing.
Just like we saw, people who took advantage of the last cycle, they stacked, $30, $40 common Spider-Mans and, like super cheap Marvel comic ones. We'll see what happens in the next cycle. Now, on that point, if we just go straight to the OMI chart. So
yeah, if you want to see his technical analysis on the OMI chart, be sure to check out his channel. Yeah, like check out the rest of the video on this channel, subscribe. Like as you can see, he did a very amazing job at this video. He broke down a lot of stuff, a lot of numbers, and a lot of it, very, very important things that should let you know why things are a little bit more or less valued on Veve. So yeah, I mean, this painted a very clear picture, a very good picture. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop that thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace out, homies.